Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to our living room. If you watched our earlier broadcast at 10 a.m., we were on one side of our house, and today we are on the more adult side of our house.
It's of the same room.
Of the same room. But we are so glad you are here with us as we all usher in Shabbat together. Thank you for being with us tonight, being here with us tonight over YouTube Live. If you can say hello over our chat feature. We'd love to see who's watching, who's listening. And I want to start out with two things. First, I want to invite you to think about the week that you had. Perhaps you didn't leave your house or your home or your apartment or your place of shelter at all. But that doesn't mean that really awesome, wonderful, and holy things happened there. And I think you'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want you to think about the week and picture something beautiful that you saw. It could have been at home. It could have been outside your window. It could have been over the internet, over your computer. Just picture something really, really beautiful and meaningful that you saw. And think about a way in which someone perhaps helped you this week, or a way in which you helped somebody. And now picture the face of somebody who you love. And then picture them looking at you. As I like to say on most Shabbats, those are our blessings, and we have them all the time. And Shabbat gives us an opportunity to really reflect on the blessings that we do have, even in really challenging times. And as we continue our services, before we actually continue our services, I want to offer this blessing, a blessing that we've already introduced in our services before, and you, Eli, have shared this blessing. It's a prayer for healers, and I wanted to maybe begin a tradition of where we offer this blessing at a certain point in our services. So this is a prayer for healers by Rabbi Ayelet Cohen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all those who put themselves at risk to care for the sick. Physicians, nurses, and orderlies, technicians and home health aides, first responders and pharmacists, hospital social workers and respiratory therapists, and other frontline healthcare workers. I'll also add drivers and grocery people who work in the grocery stores. I want to add to those, all essential workers. And bless especially those nurses, doctors, healing professionals, essential workers who are part of our TBE community, and we know there are many. Those who navigate the unfolding dangers of the world each day to tend to those they have sworn to help. Bless them and their loved ones when they come home, and bless them when they go out again. Ease their fears, sustain them. Source of all breath, healer of all beings, protect them and restore their hope. Strengthen them that they may bring strength. Keep them in good health and that they may bring healing to others. Help them know again a time when they can breathe without fear. Bless the sacred work of their hands. May this plague pass from among us speedily and in our day. Amen. And we'll continue with our candlelighting. If you're following along with our prayer book, we are on page 2.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
I think for so many of us, these days can start to really run together, and it becomes difficult to know what time it is, what day it is. It can be a little disorienting. And I think one of the things that I look forward to every week is this moment of the week, Friday evening, when we start to welcome Shabbat into our midst. I feel particularly eager and excited as we enter Kabbalat Shabbat, because it really feels like I am ready to welcome Shabbat into my midst, into my being. So if that feels resonant for you, then you're in the right place, because we're about to do just that. As we go through our service this evening, we'll be calling pages from Mishkan Tefillah as if we're all together in the Rudin Chapel. Many of you have prayer books at home. Some of you may not. Follow along with us in ways that feel meaningful to you. If you want to read along with everything and sing along, that's great. If you want to pray from the heart and the mind and just be with us, whatever feels best for you. We will rise and be seated the same way we would if we were together in the chapel. We'll say to please rise or be seated, as we would do what feels right, do what feels comfortable and meaningful wherever you are, however you're joining us. And we're going to pretend like you're actually all in our kitchen with us, because right now our computer's set up on the kitchen table and we are welcoming you along with the Shabbat into our midst and into our home. So we will turn to page 10 and join together in Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh of Harachaman, Yedid Nefesh of Harachaman, Neshot Avdecha, Eretzonecha, Neshot Avdecha, Yalai 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 Eretzonecha, Yarutz Avdecha, Kemo Ayal, Ishtachave Yalai 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 Emor Adarecha, Yarutz Avdecha, Kemo Ayal, Ishtachave Yalai Yalai Emor Adarecha.
We'll continue on page 11 at the top of the page with Dodi Li from Song of Songs.
Dodi li ani lo haroeh bashoshanim, Dodi li ani lo haroeh bashoshanim, Dodi li mizot olam min hamidbar, mizot olam min hamidbar, Dodi li ani lo haroeh bashoshanim, Dodi li mekuteret mor, mor ulevona, Dodi li, Dodi li ani lo haroeh bashoshanim, Dodi li.
We'll turn ahead now to Lecha Dodi, which can be found on pages 20 and 21 of your prayer book. And we'll offer verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 as we welcome the Shabbat bride into our midst.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'nitila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof maaseh b'machshavat tchila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. הללויה, 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 hallelujah.
We'll continue with a psalm for Shabbat from Psalm 92 on page 22 of our prayer books.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינון בשיבה, תשנים ועננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עמלתה בו.
In a moment, we'll welcome the Shabbat angels with Shalom Aleichem on page 24 of our prayer books. If you haven't yet said hello in the live chat feature, feel free to say hi to everyone, wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. If you want to share a particular blessing from the week that you're carrying with you into Shabbat, or something that you experienced that you want to share, something happy, something wonderful that we can all share in your joy, you can put that in the chat as well. And in the meantime, we will welcome these angels with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We will continue with Baruch Hu on page 28. Please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalalai lai lai, 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 yalalai lai lai.
We acknowledge the miracle of day turning into night and night turning into day on page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
On page 32, we'll offer our gratitude for the gift of Torah.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
We'll continue with the Ahafta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך,
וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם,
Adonai Elohechem
Emet.
We'll offer this poem on page 41. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. On page 40, we'll offer these words of Micha Mocha, a song of redemption and freedom.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילו נושא פלא, נורא תהילו נושא פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה עלינו ואמרו, זה עלינו ואמרו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי לי 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 יאי לי לי
In a moment, we'll continue with Hashkivenu on page 42, which is an evening prayer for peace, and it invokes this image of a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace that covers us and covers all the world. And as we join together in prayer from all of the different rooms and the different buildings and different towns that we're watching from, it's as if all of our voices and all of our prayers are going up and creating this network of prayers and of thoughts of peace. And we hope, God willing, that we will get to feel that sense of peace, especially as we enter into Shabbat. So we'll join together now on page 42.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו שומרנו לחיים.
Achad Ha'am taught us that more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. And I think these days it feels like Shabbat is just such an important piece of the week, this marker that tells us, it grounds us, it anchors us in what is important and what is meaningful. And so on page 44, we'll sing together Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
Nothing like a key change to get us ready for the Amidah. We'll turn to page 46 and we'll rise. And I want to just note a couple of things before we get started there. Since we have crossed Passover in the Jewish calendar, we are now in the period of not winter or summer in our Amidah.
Quarantine.
So when we get to page 50 for the second paragraph of the Amidah, instead of saying Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagasha, we'll say Morid Hatal. God's going to bring the dew to us in this season. And we'll also, and I'll try to remember this when we get there, but in case I forget, we'll also have a special blessing that we say this Shabbat evening because it's Rosh Chodesh. We're beginning the month of ER. And so when we get to our private prayers in the Amidah, there will be a special insertion for Rosh Chodesh. But we'll get there when we get there. And for now, we'll begin our Amidah on page 46. Please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מנית ומחיה, ומצליח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים וקדושים בכל יום יהללו חסלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש, האל הקדוש.
We'll take a few moments now for private prayer. If you're using a prayer book, we'll go through page 62. If you want to say the special blessing that we say for Rosh Chodesh, it's on page 56. We'll join back together in a few minutes with Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom V'imroma Uyaseh Shalom Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Oseh Shalom V'imroma Uyaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al kol Ve'al kol Ve'al kol Yisrael Ve'al kol Ve'al kol Ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel Eimeru Amen Eimeru Amen We ask for peace on earth and we say Amen Reimeru Amen, Reimeru Amen. We raise our voice as one, and we say, Amen.
We continue in our prayer books on page 253 with Mishaberach Lacholim, our prayer for those who are in need of healing. And even though we can't hear your voices aloud as we offer this prayer, if you're thinking of a loved one that you are praying for this Shabbat and you want to say their name aloud wherever you are, please feel free to do so at this time.
And if you are comfortable, and you can write their name into the chat box as well, but absolutely no pressure. We hold all of those who are in need of healing in our hearts.
There are a lot of people. We'll continue in the middle of 253.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Lekol habracha Ve'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu v'kol habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
On Tuesday this week, just a few days ago, we sat right here at our kitchen table and signed in for our weekly Zoom staff meeting with our friends at Temple Beth-El. As we balanced our very wiggly baby and tried to carefully pay attention, we each got an alarm from the National Weather Service advising us to head to our basement because of a tornado warning in Port Washington. First, I thought it must be a mistake. We're not in the Midwest where we were used to having tornado warnings. But then I got anxious. And then as we quickly relocated downstairs, I thought how lucky we are to have our own lower level without windows. How we didn't have to crowd into a shared space with folks who are otherwise trying to physically distance themselves. As we sat downstairs, our lights flickered and we could hear the wind roaring outside. And then as soon as it had arrived, the storm passed. The sky opened up, revealing sharp contrast between the blue clearness and the black clouds rolling through. That afternoon, I drove through our neighborhood in a desperate attempt to get Judah to take a nap. There were some branches down, but what struck me was the persistence of the tulips, with their heads still held high. They looked defiant among the misplaced mulch and the scattered twigs and branches, still reaching high for the emerging sun. As I observed the tulips, I thought about how both the storm and the peace afterward are powerful. As the second wave of the storm rolled through shortly after, I remembered the story of Noah and his family aboard the ark. After 40 days of the tremendous flood, Noah opens the window and sends forth a raven and a dove. The dove doesn't find a place to rest, so it comes back to the ark. And a week later, Noah sends the dove back out, and this time it brings an olive branch. So Noah understands that the waters are beginning to recede. After another week, he sends the dove out once more, and this time it doesn't return to the ark at all, which was a sign for Noah and his family that it was safe to find dry land and disembark. It feels impossible to ignore the reality we're each facing this Shabbat. More and more of our congregational families are impacted by COVID-19, whether through their own suffering or their grief for loved ones who have died. The physical isolation, which has been effective in helping slow the spread of the illness, has brought with it significant mental and emotional challenges. Isolation is hard. Even in a safe home with a well-stocked fridge and a good internet connection, it can be difficult to be alone. It's also a time of great tension because many folks are finding themselves, even among the substantial challenges, encountering great beauty, finding gratitude for whatever situation they find themselves in. I know in our home, we're vacillating between great fear, anxiety, and anger, and joy, gratitude, and fulfillment, and back and forth again. Judaism is a religion that embraces these tensions. Our tradition is replete with examples of holding two seemingly conflicting ideas or circumstances and honoring both for whatever it is. There's even a Talmudic principle, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chaim, that I want to share with you tonight. This phrase means this one and this one are the words of the living God. And it's used in Talmudic discussion when there are two correct but conflicting opinions. Yes, our ancient rabbis devised a religious principle that embraces conflict and acknowledges that two seemingly opposite things can be both right and holy. This phrase is typically used by our ancient sages who are seeking to determine the proper halacha, or the legal way to act in a certain situation. This phrase, Elu ve'elu, divrei Elohim chayim, has been a text I find myself returning to in these challenging days. Where can I find holiness in the gratitude and in the fear? What can be sacred about the feelings of fulfillment, and what can be sacred about the feelings of grief? How do I embrace the tensions between my joy at this family time with the fear and anxiety? The answer is Elu ve'elu, this one and this one, these and these are each and all sacred and holy, even when they're in tension. This Shabbat, our Torah reading is about sara'at, or leprosy. And as a matter of fact, it's about quarantine and isolation. This week we read from Tazria Metzora, a double portion in the book of Leviticus. It is impossible to hide from the connections between this Torah portion and the global pandemic in which we find ourselves. In Tazria Metzora, we read about the procedures surrounding sara'at, which is often translated as leprosy. There are individual responsibilities, communal responsibilities, and priestly responsibilities. Sara'at was a highly contagious disease, a scaly affection that could occur in skin, clothing, and even in the stones of a house. In Leviticus chapter 13, we read, "As for the Metzora, the person with a leprous affection, his clothes shall be rent, his head shall be left bare, and he shall cover over his upper lip, and he shall call out, Tameh, Tameh, unclean, unclean. He shall be unclean as long as the disease is on him. Being unclean, he shall dwell apart. His dwelling shall be outside the camp." Commentator Abraham ibn Ezra notes that the reason the Metzora covers his lip is such that he could not infect others with his breath. Here, a person who recognizes on their own body a symptom of sara'at covers his mouth, goes outside the camp into quarantine, and importantly, he declares tameh, tameh, unclean, unclean. Rabbi Yael Rydberg teaches, embedded in these verses is a communal imperative to care for others. According to the Talmud, one calls out their infected status not only to warn others of the contagion, but also to elicit compassion and prayers on one's behalf. It is the responsibility of the affected person to isolate, ask for help, social distance, and it is the responsibility of the community to offer the support, prayer, and ultimately whatever assistance was possible. No one should be isolated more than necessary, she says, for as much as the individual suffers, so does the community. In proclaiming oneself a Metzora, one who has sara'at, the individual seeks to protect themselves and elicit compassion and prayers. The community is to respond in turn, offering whatever support they can. In the biblical passage, we might even consider the first responder to be the priest. The priest would evaluate the one who declared himself to have leprosy, and he would create a plan. There was a quarantine, of course, but there was also a clear procedure for how to reintegrate into the community. Each Israelite had a responsibility and a role. The priest, like our own first responders and health professionals, had to go toward the afflicted instead of moving away. The Metzora had the responsibility of acknowledging and announcing their affliction while taking themselves out and moving into quarantine outside the camp. And the rest of the Israelites offered support and a willingness to help the Metzora reintegrate into the camp when the time was right. There was a ritual of return. Today, we find ourselves in a murkier situation, of course. Here, the highly contagious illness is one that is taking lives, and those of us not in official quarantine are also not fully integrated into our normal society the way we were 6 or 7 weeks ago. But even so, we can look to this week's Torah portion for inspiration. Tazria Metzora is a text that in a certain way is an embodiment of the Talmudic Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim Chaim. These and these are words of the living God. People are sick. People are separated from their community for a period of time. In the best cases, those who are sick recover, and eventually all are reintegrated into society. There is holiness in community, but there is also holiness in quarantine. Elu ve'elu, both of these can be holy. There are enormous challenges that we face on both sides, both in community and in isolation. There is no real returning for us to what was. Our eventual reintegration will not be into life precisely as we knew it before. The financial and emotional challenges that we confront today and in the weeks that come will have impact on how we move forward. Our responsibilities persist to ourselves and to others through this period of isolation and into our eventual reintegration. I bring once more the words of Rabbi Yael Rydberg, who teaches, "We are all the Metzora these days. And in our isolation, we are responsible to flatten the curve of the virus, to care for one another and humanity by not being reckless or callous. Let us imagine that all of our efforts to end this pandemic are akin literally and figuratively to the Talmudic story of the Messiah sitting among the lepers, untying and replacing their bandages one by one. Each of us must do our part to end the spread of this pandemic. Separation now, she says, we hope, will lead to reintegration later. It may not appear that all of our efforts are making an impact, but our medical professionals, the priests of old, must be able to make the same determinations as to the contagion and the reintegration of the community as their ancient ancestors. Rabbi Rydberg concludes, we will be the beneficiaries of their wisdom and care. This Shabbat of Tazria Metzora, we offer our gratitude in particular to those first responders, medical professionals, essential personnel, caregivers, companions, and last responders. We send strength to those who are struggling in solitude or lonely in full houses, those working and those who have lost jobs, all those trying to seek truth and do what's best for them and the rest of humanity. We pray for the healing of those who are ill and for the protection of those providing them care. We don't know what the next days and months will bring, but we know what today was, and we have high hopes for this Shabbat, this much-needed day of rest. I think back to Noah, who tested the waters by sending out the raven and the dove. The dove returned and left again, and then returned with the olive branch, only to leave and not come back. We may not know for certain when it's safe to emerge from our isolation, but we pray that with the guidance of medical professionals and scientists, we do what's right for humanity. In the meantime, we search for the holiness in the tensions we experience. This Shabbat, may we remember the Talmudic principle that there is value and sacredness in the tensions that we are experiencing. There is holiness in the joy and in the heartache, in the laughter and the tears, in the chapel and at the kitchen table. May we continue to draw strength from this holy community, even when we dwell temporarily outside the camp. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will.
Can you hear it sung?
We find ourselves not only counting days in physical isolation, but also in this period of the Omer, which takes us from the second night of Passover all the way to Shavuot, a journey from redemption to revelation of Torah. If you have a copy of Mishkan Tefillah in front of you, we will be on page 278 as we prepare to count the Omer, and we're counting the day after 15. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom shisha asar yom shehem shnei shvuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is the 16th day, which is 2 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. We will continue now with Aleinu, which can be found on page 282. Please rise.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
May be seated. We know that around the world and in our own community, there's so much loss that's happening. And we know that between and behind every statistic is a person who is loved and whose loss is being mourned and grieved. And so as we prepare for Kaddish, it feels like in this period we have particularly heavy hearts. And so we'll remember those who've died in recent days and those whose yahrzeits fall at this time. And if you're thinking of someone and you find it meaningful to share their name aloud wherever you are, you can do so. If you want to tell us in the chat someone that you're remembering to add their name to the names that we'll read aloud, please do so. This week we are in the period of Shiva, the first 7 days for Howard extract. And the Shabbat, we're still within a period of Shloshim, these first 30 days for David Appelman, Maurice A. Dean, Isaac Ehrlich, Helene Phillips Herzig, Herbert Lyman, Harriet Morrow, Michael Nevins, Arlene Schneidman, Bruce Weinberg, and Hai Herman Zuckerman. And the Shabbat, our congregational families are commemorating the yahrzeits of David Green, Seymour Gunad, Miriam Jaffe, Lillian Cursius, Irving Cursius, Larry Lazaro, Eric Levy, Inga Levy, Siegfried Levy, Sarah Penner, Susan Ross, Louis Rosenblum, and Herb Weiner. Zichronam livracha, we pray their memories always be for a blessing. We'll join together on page 294 of our prayer books for Kaddish Yatom, and if it's your custom to rise, I'll invite you to do so as we join together in these ancient words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'bromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We pray that the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to the world. And together we'll say, Amen. You may be seated if you're standing. So, even though we're not together in the building of Temple Beth-El, it feels like there's more going on than ever before. So I'll start our announcements this evening by saying, if you haven't been checking your emails from Temple Beth-El, that is a really great thing to start doing because there's so much information and all of the ways that you can tap into the programming we're doing are listed in the emails that we've been sending out. Before we do announcements, I want to thank our entire staff who are working behind the scenes just as much, if not more than usual, to make things happen. And so to everyone that we have the honor of working with, thank you for doing what you're doing. Immediately after services, there will be a virtual oneg, and you can find the link in the week ahead and week update emails. Tomorrow morning for Torah study, you can join via Zoom at 9:15 a.m. and there's Havdalah at 8:30 as we'll say farewell to Shabbat on Facebook Live. So Torah study on Zoom, Havdalah on Facebook Live. Right now we're on YouTube. There are a lot of different ways to connect. We have ongoing programming every week, which I'm just going to quickly review. Like I said, everything's in the email. Mondays and Thursdays, you can participate in Morning Minyan at 7:15. Tuesdays and Fridays, we do a tot-friendly sing-along on Facebook Live. Mondays and Wednesdays, we rotate through and do a clergy schmooze on Zoom, so you can pop in and tell us how you're doing. Let us know what fun things you're up to, if anything, or what you need help with. Beginning Wednesday evenings at 7:30 now through the middle of June, you can join David Wolf, our educator, for some beginners Hebrew, which is a new offering. And Rabbi Meir is continuing on with his Lunch and Learn programming on at least Thursdays, I think also Tuesdays too. At 11:30. Those are the regular events that are happening every week. There's also special events coming up, which I will highlight now and encourage you to find more details in your emails. There will be a viewing party and discussion of the Netflix series Unorthodox, which is very compelling. The dates, the first date is on April 30th, I believe, so you can find out more information about that coming up. Sisterhood, our amazing Temple Beth-El Sisterhood has an initiative to change up what hospital workers are getting in terms of the food that people are providing them. Apparently they're pizzaed out, which makes a lot of sense. If you are a baker, whether you're an own egg baker or you just love to bake and you want to drop off baked goods, there's a contactless drop off happening on, I believe, Wednesday. It's the 29th from 4 to 5. So you can come drop off those baked goods. There are instructions and everything in an email. We're running some short-term tribes, these communities within our larger community, during this period of quarantine and physical distancing. So you can find those different offerings in emails as well. But if you find yourself in the sandwich generation caring for your parents or your elderly loved ones as well as children, we've got a group going for that. If you're parenting in this crazy age of coronavirus, if you're recently unemployed because of coronavirus, we've got a group for all sorts of different people. So if you find yourself looking for some companionship or some different voices to spend your day with, you can check that out. One more. If you would like a siddur delivered to you, you can borrow Mishkan Tefillah for home use. So you can let the amazing Daphne Weintraub know, and she will connect you with Doug, who has been amazingly bringing these to congregants who are looking to follow along with a hard copy prayer book. Anything else?
Was that done in one breath?
There's a lot going on at Temple Beth-El. Really
So
amazing.
Before we conclude our service, I want to thank you for your beautiful words. Thank you so much, Ellie. I'm going to put on my Ron Epstein president hat. Ron, I think you're watching.
What kind of hat does Ron wear?
I don't know. Probably a Yankees hat, right? That would be the right one. Ron, let us know if I'm correct. Do you have a Yankees hat? So I wanted to share this poem before we finish with our final song, which I'll tell you in a moment. This poem has been going around the internet, and people have been sharing it. Somebody said it was written during the 1918, the first wave of the Spanish flu pandemic, and then it was by the second wave, and then the online sleuths did their work, and they found that it was written in March 2020 by a woman named Kitty Omer, a former teacher and chaplain from Wisconsin, and in trying to process the worsening news surrounding the catastrophic spread of the coronavirus, she wrote this poem. And its sentiment and message are just as profound as if it had reemerged from a century ago. And so I wanted to, go Yankees, I was correct, to share this poem with you. And so here it is. It's called, "And the People Stayed Home." And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games, and learned new ways of being, and were still, and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows. And the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully, as they had been healed. And so this week on Wednesday, we celebrated Earth Day. And with this poem kind of fresh in our minds, I wanted to conclude this with the singing of "This Land Is Your Land." If you want, you can Google the words. We're not going to sing the entire song, but we'll sing a few verses. But please join with us. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. When the sun came shining and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, a voice was chanting and the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
We wish you a Shabbat Shalom. May it be a day of rest and of peace. We're so grateful to all of you for joining us and to everyone who said something in our chat. We're really bolstered by your presence, even if it's a digital one. So thank you for being with us. Take care, stay home, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.
Shabbat Shalom.